Hey makeup friends, my apathy towards most new makeup releases is continuing, so I thought that I would just give you another anti-haul. Let's get into this. First off, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and on my channel we like to mix beauty, brains, and the occasional F-bomb. In terms of the makeup that I'm wearing right now, minimal as it is, on my lips I have Midi Mauve from MAC, and on my eyes I just have two shades from the Tartelette in Bloom palette. That's basically what's going on. I got a little bit of powder foundation, some concealer, blush, bronzer, highlight, and that's about it. So with that out of the way, let's just dive straight into the items that I have no intention of picking up, with the exception of one that I'm kind of on the fence, but I'm starting to tilt towards just don't buy it. We'll get to that. Maybe we'll save that one to the end. All right, now that I am situated on this side of the screen, let's get into this. First up is Wet n Wild and their Care Bear collection. Now, I will fully admit, I was a fan of the Care Bears back in the day, but we're talking like back in the 80s. It's been a very long time since I had a Care Bear. This, even that nostalgia doesn't really like tug on the old heartstrings. It just, especially this picture, frankly, just kind of overwhelms me. It's like, it's a lot, but breaking it down, like there's really not that much that I am interested in at all in this collection. So there is a primer serum, there's a highlighter, bronzer, blush, an eye and face palette, there's setting spray and lashes and mascara, oh my, and it goes on. There is so much, including shine glitter gels, all sorts of stuff. It does look like a very nostalgic throwback kind of collection, but I don't need it in my life in order to be able to appreciate that aspect of it. I can look at the picture and be like, oh yeah, I remember the Care Bears, and then move on from there. I don't need to spend money on this, and therefore I won't be. What would any sort of new release video be without talking about Colourpop? And in this instance, we're going to talk about them 3 times. I think it's been 3 weeks since I posted an anti-haul video, so that kind of tracks because they release a collection seemingly at least once a week, if not more, and in fact there's probably some releases from them that I have missed in the last couple of weeks, but regardless, there are 3 to talk about. One of them is the Let's Roll Roller Skates collection. It's a pastel palette with a bunch of other crap. It's not for me. I just don't do pastels. Like, they just don't flatter me. It's not anything that I'm ever really interested in. The juicy gloss tubes and stuff, I don't really like gloss in a tube, so even if it is like the nicest gloss out there, and I really don't know about these ones, I just don't like that application mechanism. The single shock cheeks and eyeshadows, I do like those products. I have a single shock highlighter that I've been working on in my Project Pan, but I don't like storing them. And here we're looking like, just from this picture, there's 7, possibly more shades of them, but at least 7. I don't want 7 single containers, and they're fairly sizable. I don't want to have to store them, so that doesn't get me either. It's just a very easy pass for me. Likewise, the Peeps collection. Again, we've got a bunch of different single shadows going on here, and while the colors individually are very pretty, it's not really fitting with the aesthetic that I have been gravitating towards lately, so it's just not for me. They're cute. I get it. It's cute. It's kitschy, but that doesn't mean I need to spend money on it, and I am not going to. Likewise, the Winnie the Pooh collection. This one is more in keeping with my preferred aesthetic at this point. That eyeshadow palette is a little bit more on the neutral side, and it's also not anything that I don't already have from Colourpop. This one reminds me very much of the It reminds me very much of the Sandstone palette. There are very similar shades in there. And then there was another palette that they had that I cannot remember the name of. Perhaps something Garden? I can't remember, but it brings to mind that one as well. And honestly, at this point, Colourpop is just white noise to me. It's just this like unrelenting hum of new releases. And how do you make them different one from the next? So here we see the Winnie the Pooh palette that does look very similar to the Sandstone palette, which I already have, obviously, so I don't need this one. Again, it pulls to that whole nostalgia thing with Winnie the Pooh, but again, I don't have to have an eyeshadow palette simply for that. It's cute. Like, I can't say that the packaging is awful. I think it's adorable. I think that the color story is pretty, obviously, because I've already basically bought it from them, but I don't need it. These little honey pots are, I think, the thing that are really drawing people in because they are adorable, like objectively cute. But I don't need it. Like, it's a lip gloss in a pot. Okay, like, I don't want to carry that in my purse. I don't want to carry it in my pocket. I don't want it. Hence, it's in this video. Okay, I've made my point. Let's move on and talk about something on the opposite end of the cost spectrum, and let's talk about Wayne Goss and his new luxury cream foundation. Riddle me this. What is that color selection? What is this shade range? I'm truly mystified. When I went on the Beautylish website just to poke around and take a look at this, and I wasn't really particularly interested in buying it. I more so wanted to see like what the shade options were, how much it cost, what it said, all that kind of crap. But when I went on there, even for myself, and almost every brand caters to my skin tone, let's be honest, there wasn't anything that would fit. And so it was talking about how you can mix and match to create your own like custom shade, which is great if the price point to begin with is pretty minimal. But these came in, I want to say they were $60 or $70 Canadian each. There's no price on the Trend Mood page. Maybe I'll stick it up if I think to look it up while I'm editing, but like, call it 60, say it's $120 in order to custom match my skin tone, when there could have just been an expanded shade range to begin with. Anyways, I can't complain too hard if a brand doesn't have a particular shade specifically for my skin tone, because like I said, almost every brand does. So really, I'm just experiencing the frustration that people with deeper skin tones have been facing for years. So I really don't have much to complain about, but it just seems an odd choice for me. Also, the idea of a potted foundation just doesn't really sit well with me. It makes me feel a little uncomfortable. I feel like it would be really like thick and heavy. I don't know. I could be wrong because I do have the Good Apple one from KVD, and that one is not thick or heavy. I mean, it is when you first scoop it out, but it shears out really nicely. So this one might as well. But at this point, I'm never going to know unless I watch a review on it, and I don't see the point in watching a review if I'm not interested in buying it. So it's going to remain a mystery, and I'm fully okay with that. So then let's talk about one that I do think is actually really pretty. And in like the past year, maybe 2 years ago, I definitely would have been like hitting refresh at launch for this one. It's the new Dragon Fruit collection from Cleopatra Cosmetics. There's an eyeshadow palette, and I believe there's some highlighters or blushes as well, some nail polishes. There's all sorts of stuff going on in there. I think it's fun as hell. I think it's really pretty, and I don't think I would get any use out of it. Or if I did, it would be very minimal. So it's not a palette that is fitting with how I'm doing my makeup lately, and therefore I really don't need this. I also do have a lot of single shadows from Cleopatra, so I think I've got it kind of covered in that sense. I think it's really beautiful. I'm sure that people who are into these kind of colors and these kind of shadows are going to love this. I've never ever had a complaint with the Cleopatra Cosmetics formula, but for me it just wouldn't make much sense for me to put money towards it because I know I'm not going to use it. So I've said in previous videos, I'm really trying this thing of not just buying stuff for the sake of doing reviews for a few reasons. One, it just becomes a cost that I really don't need to take on because my channel's not of the size where I'm going to, get the return on investment where it makes sense to spend $60 on a palette because I know I'm going to make more than that on a video. That's just not where I'm at. And also, I'm just not loving doing eyeshadow palette reviews at this point. I don't have a lot of time in my life right now, and I really don't have a lot of energy right now, emotional, physical, you name it, and I'm kind of tapped at this point. So again, it just doesn't make sense for me to buy palettes that are just going to sit and not be used and not be reviewed, right? So with all that said, I'm not going to pick this one up. Likewise, these new ones from Huda Beauty, the Color Block Obsession palettes. Again, in the past, this is the kind of thing I think I would have snapped up immediately and then eventually decluttered, if I'm being perfectly honest about it. And so I'm just going to spare myself the money and the time involved in that and just not buy it to begin with. There's cake liners in these palettes. I don't really get on with cake liners. It's just not a thing I ever really reach for or use. I have some from Huda Beauty. I can't remember the last time I actually used one, so I don't need that in here. I don't really like the split pan idea going on. Also, I just think that these are really like limiting in terms of the creative options available within each palette, because they are very much like a two-toned palette. Obviously, there's a spectrum of shades in there, but I mean, look at it. There's not a whole lot that you can do with it, and it's just not anything that's going to fill any sort of niche that I need in my collection. So I'm going to pass. Okay, so then let's talk about this. I don't know if this is a new brand or not, Base Blue Cosmetics, but this is a new palette from them. This is the Flower Eyeshadow and Blush palette. This is like gift makeup in my opinion, meaning this is the kind of thing that you give to somebody for Mother's Day, for their birthday. I don't need to explain when gift giving is appropriate. You guys can figure that out. I feel torn on this because I think it's pretty. I think it's different. And while oftentimes oddly shaped pans just like set my teeth on edge and I just look to the practicality of it, or the impracticality as the case may be, these ones don't bother me at all. There's no like weird little edges where you're not going to be able to get a brush in. They're spread out enough and large enough, at least from the picture, from like there's really no scale, but I assume just looking at the picture that they're not tiny and like just stupidly shaped. But having said that, I don't know what to do with this color story. I don't know. Because they end up looking rather pastel on the swatches. And there's only one sort of deepening shade, and that's that like deeper blue. And even at that, it's not particularly deep per se. I just don't know how you make like a fully formed eyeshadow look with this palette. That's not to say it's impossible. It's just to say I would spend a very long time staring at this, trying to figure out what to do with it, and therefore I just get frustrated with it, and I probably wouldn't use it very often at all. So while I do think it's a really pretty palette, just objectively speaking, once I get past that and really think critically about how much use I would get out of it, the answer is not so much, and therefore I'm just going to save myself the $42 US and not purchase it. I've got another palette to talk about that, again, at first glance, I thought it was stunning. I was really excited about it. And then when I really sat down and looked at the colors and really started thinking about what kind of color combinations would I make and how much use would I get out of it, I had to be honest with myself, and it's really not a palette that I'm going to use very often at all. And it's the Two Tickets to Paradise palette from Nomad. Now, I really do like Nomad Cosmetics. I like their whole brand vibe. I love all the palettes that I've tried from them. Some of the color stories have presented me with some challenges in the past, but the formulation of their shadows is beautiful. I love their mattes. I love their shimmers. So if this color story is something that's intriguing to you, I really don't think you're going to be disappointed by the performance of it. But for my own personal preferences, I just know that I'm not going to get the use out of it that it deserves, and therefore spending money on it is really just spending money on feeling guilty about having spent money, so I can just kind of cut that whole process out and just not buy it in the first place. So that's the plan. Danessa Myricks is expanding her Yummy Skin line. I gotta say, not a fan of the word yummy. Really not loving that, but regardless, this is the Blurring Balm Powder for eyes and face. It says it's a texture reducing, coverage boosting blurring balm that balances oils throughout the day while maintaining hydration. I don't think I've ever used a blurring balm powder. Balm powder? Sounds like an oxymoron to me. if anybody can pull it off, it's going to be Danessa Myricks. However, I have tried 2 of the other Yummy Skin products and it gave me like a massive rash and like hives, and it was very painful, very itchy. And it's made me very gun shy towards any of the base products from her line. There's just something in there and I don't know what the ingredient is. I don't typically have very reactive skin. I haven't seen many other videos of people reacting in that way. In fact, I haven't seen any videos of people reacting that way. So it might have just been a one-off for me, one particular ingredient. But regardless, it has kind of turned me off from wanting to try any more of her base products because it took a few days for that to clear away. And in the meantime, even just like basic moisturizer felt like a chemical burn on my face. So I'm a little gun shy, and I'm finding that to be a very easy pass. But I would love to know if you've tried this one or if you've tried any sort of balm powder, what have your experiences been? Because I really can't wrap my head around that concept. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this, but there are 3 celebrity skincare lines. I mean, there's a ton of them out there at this point, but 3 of them that have either recently been launched or are about to be launched. I'm just not interested. I mean, I personally don't get really head up on new skincare products to begin with. Like, I have my old staples that I use. I tend to rely very heavily on free samples. Again, going back to what I just said about my skin typically not being very reactive, it doesn't usually matter what I put on my skin. So as long as it's, clean and moisturized, I'm happy. So I'm not in the market for skincare products to begin with, but I'm really not in the market for celebrity skincare products. Like, there's Rhode, which is coming out from Hailey Bieber. There is the Outset from, oh God, what's her name? Scarlett Johansson. I'm staring right at her. How do I not know Scarlett Johansson's name? Good Lord. Her, and then there's Keys from Alicia Keys. As far as I know, all 3 of those women have no background in any sort of cosmetology, pharmaceutical, whatever degree you would need to have in order to formulate effective skincare. I don't know. I can't imagine that they were like super involved in the development process. Like, I'm guessing on that one, obviously, but I just can't imagine that Hailey Bieber is like in the lab running chemical studies and whatever the hell. Can you tell that I have absolutely no fucking idea what goes on in producing makeup or skincare products? Like, I have absolutely no idea, but I can't imagine that they were like very hands-on and being like, oh, let's add a little bit more of this and let's take this out. Blah, 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 there we go. Magic potion. I don't think so. So you're really just paying for the name. Like, I think that they're just the face of the product. Regardless, I'm not interested. So that was a really weird way of saying that. So then we're on to the last product. Now this is the one where I'm sort of like on the fence, but sort of leaning towards let's just not buy this because reasons. So Jaclyn Hill, there is a collaboration between her and her mother. So this is the Luxe Legacy collection. There is an eyeshadow palette, there's eyeshadow primer, eyeliner pencils, setting spray, loose setting powders, and all sorts of other stuff. Some new... What? Sorry, I had to cut out a portion right there because it was just me going, huh? What? Huh? Over and over. I got myself confused. Okay, the reason being, I was reading the Trend Mood description box, so it talks about the Luxe Luxury, I cannot say that, the Luxe Legacy eyeshadow palette, 20 pans, $49, and then it also talks about a Dear Mom eyeshadow palette, 20 pan, $49. And I got very confused because there's only one palette in the picture. However, when I continue to read the words, it then says, with a personal touch of Jaclyn and Robin designed packaging, which is exclusive to the site. So my understanding is that the palette, the shade selection, they're the same, but the packaging is going to be different, and you can get the special packaging exclusive to the Jaclyn Hill website. I don't care about the packaging. Anyways, the palette has me intrigued. The palette, frankly, screams Viseart to me, but at a much reduced price. This is my kind of shit, though. This, like, all neutral with, like, it reminds me of the Makeup by Mario and ABH palette from, like, way, way back. That palette's still the one that got away. I still have regrets about not buying that one. This, it looks pretty to me. It does. However, almost every single launch from this brand has been a bit of a clusterfuck, and I'm just a little gun shy about it, if I'm being perfectly honest. Also, I have tried some of her products, and while they're good, they're not like change your life amazing, but it's her first time doing an eyeshadow palette. So I'm curious, the color story, right up my alley. Is it anything new that I need? Absolutely not. So I'm kind of doing one of these. I'm sitting at like a 75-25, like 75% chance I'm not going to buy it, but there's a chance that, you know, I might get drunk one night and be like, what the fuck, why not? So we shall see, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to pick it up. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Those are the items that have come out that I was just kind of like, nope, not so much. I'd love to hear from you. Are any of these items ones that are on your definite wish list, need to get? Are there other ones in here that you're like, yeah, no, I completely agree with you? Let me know your thoughts. That's what I love about the comment section. And if you enjoyed today's video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I ask that you consider doing so. If you do, you might want to turn those notifications on because I have absolutely no upload schedule whatsoever. I'm trying, but failing. So look forward to that. Anyways, thank you for taking the time to watch. I will see you in my next video. And until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.